Okay, it is 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today is Wednesday, July the 21st, 2021, and my name is Richard Wright, and I'll be your professor for about now. This is week number 3. Got 3 more weeks to go. Um, so you should be aware. Next week, I didn't realize that that was the 28th. And so I'm going to be moving around our recording, and I may do it earlier that day, um, or I may do it Tuesday, one or the other. But at any rate, the reason why is because the 28th of July will be my 27th wedding anniversary. I didn't realize that I'd be in big trouble. So you'll get the recording. Most of the time you guys don't come anyway, so I will have recorded it earlier. I won't do it later. So anyway, I do want to make a few observations and points to those of you who completed assignments. Uh, Students have got to pay attention to the rubrics and what I say. And one of the things I said is you will end up in emerging every time you don't have citations or credible sources. Same thing in the body of your papers. Not a credible source, but credible sources. And I said that your sources should be more than your textbook. And then there should be a reference page at the end as well as a cover page. I don't care if you're doing an infographic or a chart or a brochure, you still have to satisfy those requirements because it tells you that in the rubric. And so many of you will get half the points because of the fact that you don't follow it. And if you don't follow that, you're going to end up not doing so well in this class. But I can say it over and over and over, yet students still continue. I don't know if you're not listening to lectures, but the point, or just listen for the key phrase. The point of the matter is you're doing yourself a disservice. So I thought I would say that today. I haven't graded week 2, but they will be graded by the end of this week. Okay, so let's get right into this week's area. Let me get the Firefox, share the screen. Okay, and let's go to student preview so that you can see. This is what you see. And you can see that when you open up that you have the rubrics and the PowerPoints rather, I should say, and the recorded lectures. So you have weeks 1, weeks 2, and then your PowerPoints. This is for week 3 and the others as well. So you want to make sure that you pay close attention to it. These are the assignments that are due. As you can see, the written assignment, the quiz, and the live classroom lecture are due Sunday the 25th, and that your reply post is due the 24th. On the discussion topic, your initial post was due on the 20th, which was yesterday. And so just wanted to remind you. So let's take a look at the written assignment, and then we'll go to the rubric in a few minutes. Okay, so this week you're going to do what we call a fact sentencing sheet. Now you're going to uh, uh, contemplate that your state is turning from indeterminate to determinate sentencing, and the option will be placed at the ballot. So you're going to create a fact sheet which provides information to educate voters as to what type of sentencing each is, as well as the pros and cons of each. So you're going to create a one-page, did you hear me? A one-page fact sheet that includes the following. And the best way to do it is on one side, the determinant, on the other side, the indeterminate. So one-page fact sheet that includes a definition of each type of sentencing, includes the elements of each of the sentences, explain at least two pros and two cons of each. See what it says? Providing evidence from credible sources. I said that before, and you're going to see that in the rubric. If you don't, you will see how your grade suffers. Every week it's the same thing. Credible sources are needed. There should be spelling correctly, grammar, cover sheet, as well as a reference page. All right. And so it's very important. It should be in Microsoft Word, not Publisher, and not a PowerPoint. Very important, because if you do, you're going to get a 0 in there. And that's the assignment. Of course, you know it is due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to show you the rubric in just a few minutes, but I'm going to go over the discussion post first. Here is a discussion post. I've already told you when they're due. You're selected as a board member of your state's new commission tasked with assessing the current status of your state's prison programming. So for this discussion, you're going to conduct an online search of your state's prison programming and post a short description of the type of programs available, include the goals or purposes of the programs, your thoughts as to which programs are effective and why, include indicators as to whether or not they are effective, reduce recidivism, efficient, etc. Your recommendations for additional programming and why. So that's in your initial post. In your reply post, respond to a student from another state describing the programs different than yours. Explain why you agree or disagree with the assessment there. Okay, and I've already told you the initial post is due as of yesterday, the 20th, and the reply post is due the 24th, which is Saturday. Very important. All right. Your quiz, I'm not going to tell you about it, but you have 3 attempts to do the quiz. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but you do have 3 attempts to do the quiz in this class, and that the 3 times have to be completed by the 25th. Okay, and it's very important, very important. Your live classroom lecture, of course, the phrase I'm going to give you is also due at that time as well. All right. So now let's, before we go to anything else, let's go to the rubric. Okay, here we go. The written assignment fact sheet. Here is the rubric, and it will show up momentarily. And you can see what I'm talking about. Just give it a second. It'll be right there. Okay, so as you can see, from mastery to proficiency to competency to merging, the best grade is mastery. I always tell my students to focus on the mastery column. Some of you, I can tell, don't focus on it, because if you did, you would see credible sources here. And so with it being credible sources required, you can't end up there if you don't have them. Okay? Same thing all the way to the next section, credible sources. And then the third section, typos, spellings. So credible sources are needed, and references at the end. Cover page, very important, where you deal with the issues that I've already described. Credible sources. If you provide accurate description and some form of credible sources, you can end up in proficiency. This is A, and A. This could be B, and this is C and D, and then this is F. So that's why many of you end up over here, is because it says, look what it says: incomplete or confusing description, missing details on specific elements from credible sources. Same thing over here. So don't ask me why you got a lower grade. If you read the comments that I put in your grade book, you will see that each and every time. You can ask me again, but that's the answer I'm going to tell you. Okay? Very, very, very important. Very important. Okay, so I'm done with that. Close that down. All right, we talked about discussion, the quiz. Of course, if you want to find a recording, of course, it doesn't matter here. You will right now see the link to get here where we are right now, but I changed this over to the recorded lecture at the end. And that's it for the week 3. Now, let's go to the course calendar, the month version, and you can see where we are. Today is the 21st, and you see the live lecture. You see the initial post was due yesterday, the reply post due Saturday, your live classroom lecture, your quiz, which you have 3 times to complete before the end of this day. And you don't have to worry about averaging it, because the highest grade is what counts. So if you take it again and you go lower, it doesn't matter. All right. And then of course, if you get 100, there's no reason for you to take it again. And then your written assignment is due that same day as well. Okay, and then the lecture, the 28th, like I said, I will probably end up doing it the 22nd, 27th. Matter of fact, I'm going to move it over now. Oh, I forgot I can't do that one. Let's see. Let me go back to the month version. Okay, let's do an open house lecture. And I'm going to change that to oh, that's the wrong one. This is the one I want to change. This is the one I want to change. Edit single event. So I'm going to start at the 27th. Okay, and then save it there. So now it should be on the 27th. Let's see if I do the month view. Yep. So the live lecture will be the 27th. Okay, so anyway, if you want to come, you can come. Otherwise, it'll be recorded for you. All right. Okay. So now let's take a look at, this is where we are now. So let's go back to, see, I think I got everything here. Oh, the announcements. That's what I need to look at. So your announcement for week 3, the roles of prisons, punishment, and programming, chapters 4 and 14 of the text, which I sent you the PowerPoints for. And we're going to talk about the topic institutional programming, changing philosophies, core rehabilitative programs, determined and indeterminate sentencing, and then finally your vocabulary review. Of course, your lecture is taking place right now, and then your initial post was due yesterday on states prison programming, and your reply post is due this Saturday. And then finally, the written assignment, sentencing fact sheet, which I've covered, and the quiz are both due this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. And I remind you to continue to be strong and finish strong. You'll learn my motto, Adversity Springboard to Success. I've shared that with you before and told you where you can find more details about it. But listen, I want to say it again. Pay attention to the rubrics. The rubric is so important in getting good grades in this course. Difference in passing and failing. Okay, so that's the announcement. Okay, so now let's talk about the first section. So here's the way that the correction system works about. And the big ticket was punishment. The more time you get, the less likely you would commit a crime, or it was felt that that would deter you. But that doesn't seem to be the case for a number of reasons that I've already stated, but I'll state again. And so it began to continue that way, that by 1870, prisoners, reformers realized that isolation did not address the behavior and began the transition to reformation. So in doing so, they focused on, while individuals were incarcerated, providing education and training. And so the key thing then is it began to move in the direction that it is today. The top priority in prisons today is safety and security of both the offender and the staff. And the question is debated as to how much programming will accomplish that. And so we're going to talk about that. And so you can see we move from punishment to rehabilitation. As you already know, that I'm a fan of rehabilitation because of the fact that rehabilitation means rehabbing something, means taking the person in a new direction in their life so that they will have the education, they'll have a trade. If they have drug problems, get them treated for that. If they have alcohol problems, get them treated for that. If there's mental illness as a problem, get them treated for that while they're incarcerated, and can have that as a continuum for when they are released into the public. And so it is one of the things I tell people is cheaper to educate than to incarcerate. And it's better for the society to rehabilitate people rather than to simply punish them alone, give them long sentences, keep them in, and then release them out and tell them don't do it again. You have to teach them. And then particularly, as I said, if the person has a drug problem or a mental health problem, the length of sentence does not matter in terms of changing their state of mind or their direction, because the key thing is you must get to the core of the matter, and the core of the matter is to treat these things. As we say often, and I teach drugs and crimes, is that you must recognize these are illnesses and must be treated the way doctors treat patients with colds, flus, and viruses and other things of that nature. And so individuals who are not treated for their drug habits will obviously go back out and commit crimes, because I've said that there's a good reason why the course is called Drugs and Crime, is because of the fact that they relate to each other, and that as a result, individuals commit crimes to support their drug habits. If a person commits crime because they have a mental illness, that means they don't have the capacity, not legally to be insane, but to make poor decisions and judgments based upon impulse and not think about the possible consequences, because they don't have the capacity. It's like giving a baby um, the capacity to do something, and the baby just doesn't know any better, and that's the key. So that's why rehabilitation is so important. So the evidence-based practices that have come from research deal with the cornerstones, which are the risk need assessment, case planning, use of cognitive interventions, and skill-directed practices. The key thing is to recognize that there is a problem that brought those people here in the first place, and we need to deal with the problems that brought them there, as opposed to just passing time. And that's kind of like what each of these points represent. And so we operate in what we call restorative justice, where for the last 35 years, the theory and philosophy that focuses on the harm caused by criminal behavior. For example, initially, restorative justice was paying restitution or completing community service. Victim offender mediation conference programs would involve community members. Restorative justice, however, is not a program. It is not a program. It's a philosophy that started in New Zealand and Australia, as it says here, and it involves the victim, the offender, and the community, as we search for ways to repair that issue and restore order and safety, and minimize repeat offending or recidivism. So if you pay attention, you'll see that in the heart of this formula is restorative justice. Notice that it crosses the community for the safety of the community, completing development for the offender, and accountability to the victim by the offender. And so this is the philosophy that permeates throughout corrections today, and it provides a recognition that we must address the issues that brought those individuals there in the first place. Okay. And so you can find more information about the Center for Justice and Reconciliation activity in this link by checking this. So we have a lot of programs now that are helping the inmate. Now we want them to be more educated uh, and to have a skill. And again, as I said, treat them for the problems that they have. Okay. So that's what the whole topic of institutional programming and how where we are today. So now let's talk about rehabilitative programs. We've kind of touched on them already, dealing with group treatment, cognitive skill building, that's for the mind of the individuals, behavior and social therapies to address the issues or activities that brought them there in the first place, providing an education and vocational programs. People are learning how to become barbers, nail technicians, um, mechanics, carpenters, electricians, IT people, and or getting their degrees and going on further into education after uh, college, after high school. Many you will discover don't have high school diplomas, so we have programs like, for example, here in Illinois, we have a program that I'm familiar with because I was involved in the start of it with the judge called Probation Challenge, and it's led by a guy named Harold Bailey. Harold Bailey was the probation officer for the late R. Eugene Pincham in the Cook County Criminal Court System, room 702 at 26 in California. It's called the Layton Courthouse now. And so individuals who came before the judge who committed crimes that were not violent offenses and that would qualify for probation and had not obtained their high school diploma would be given the option to participate in Probation Challenges program, which if they completed the program successfully would receive a general education diploma or GED and come before the judge, and the judge would dismiss the charges. And many of those people who participated in that program went on to success and turned away from crime because they were more educated. So it is one of the programs that I'm familiar with. It is now on the books in Illinois. I don't know about other jurisdictions, but it is an awesome program and helps turn the life around of individuals who would be repeat offenders. Substance abuse programs, I've already addressed that. Very important that these take place, whether it's alcohol or drugs, mental health as well. Sex offender programs, individuals need to be treated for those as well. Otherwise, that's an illness as well. They will come out and they will continue to do that. Dealing with the RNR or the risk need responsibility model involves criteria that must be implemented, and we deal with uh, first uh, who is the highest risk to recidivate. In other words, the greater risk. Next, prisons determine what the individual needs, and we talked about those, and the needs can be broken down into the primary factors, the big four, and the secondary factors, which we're going to talk about, of the central eight. So here we go. The primary factors are the history of the individual, their attitudes, values, beliefs, peer associations, and personality. So we begin to learn how that person was shaped and molded into the person that led them to prison in the first place. The central 8 we deal with as what we've talked about. We addressed them for what they need in terms of education, employment, trades, um, develop some ties with their families, treat them for the substance abuse, alcohol, or drugs, or mental illness, and then recreation and leisure, teaching them how to enjoy life. Okay, now look at how this works here. Remember what I said a few minutes ago. The who, the highest risk to recidivate. And then we apply the what, the needs that we just got through talking about a few minutes ago, the education, employment, and so forth. And then the programs, the how. We use programs to address these needs under the what section. And that's kind of the chart as to how it flows. Okay, here is a video that you can take a look at. It's about 4 minutes and 7 seconds. You can take some time on your own to look at that. And it talks about the group approach and how the intervention and services delivered one-on-one will help individuals as well. The change agent, intervention and services deal with the ability to lower the activity of criminals and give them a new direction or a new mindset. Remember, I talked about coming from 12 and going to 6 o'clock, getting them to 6 o'clock so that they work with the correction officers, case managers, everybody that's there to help them. Okay. And that's how it works. So the key thing is all rehabilitative programming um, and to help individuals to go into a new direction. And that's what we talk about when we start talking about the core rehabilitative programs. Now you know what those are. Now, determinate sentencing, we're going to talk about what that is. Remember, you need to know what that is. Now, you're going to take this and you're going to start. And so you're going to see sentencing activity. Introduction to sentencing. So when sentencing started in all of the states and in the federal level, the key thing was to lock people up, give them long sentences, and treat them in the form of punishment. Now, that's just an overview, but that was the key. And the people really weren't really being given an opportunity or treated for the issues. And as a result, recidivism would continue. All right. It says, while the formation above provides an overview of the foundation of each type, the specific type varies from state to state, and we're going to talk about that. And the state adopts philosophies based on many factors, including correctional theory, philosophies, political, financial issues, the emerging research in correctional efficiency, and the effectiveness, the cost, the number of people that are working in the area. So now let's talk about determinate. So what is determinate sentencing? Determinate sentencing deals with the sentence is participation in treatment, risk to recidivate are not considered as part of the releasing process. So it's a period of time, certain period of time that an individual is incarcerated, and they're given that range, and when they reach that period, they will be released because by statute or by law in determinate sentencing. In 1977, Illinois, under House Bill 1500, which I took part in researching while I was in law school for my senior research paper. Went from indeterminate sentencing to determinate sentencing, and we came up with specific um, levels from 6 to 30 years for a crime, so you knew what you were getting. They had what they call Class X felonies. Those were 6 to 30. We had extended terms beyond that. We had habitual offender acts for individuals who committed, they call them the three strikes law. And we came up with those, and that all fits in there. So here we go with the punishment supports the goal of retribution. The period is set by the law legislature. As I said, the statute establishes the period of incarceration. They are automatic release on that date, regardless of risk or rehabilitative attempts. States more easily are able to calculate bed space because they know when everybody's going to be released. Now, the only other thing that could create a situation for a person to be in there longer is if they committed another crime while incarcerated, and that can happen, and that has happened. And states can monitor that, and that's pretty much. So the key thing is that they know when they're going in, they know when they're coming out. Indeterminate sentencing. On the other hand, indeterminate sentencing deals, now keep in mind now, indeterminate sentencing, things like rehabilitation and those things are also featured, but remember, if the person is not fully rehabilitated, they are going to be released under determinate. Under indeterminate, they may not. So rehabilitation is taken into consideration to determine when that person is going to be released. And so it's indefinite or uncertain. I shouldn't say forever, not life, nothing like that, but it's within a reasonable period of time, but it doesn't have a set period of time the way that determinate sentencing does. The release date is undetermined and deals with the paroling board. And the parole board, or we call it mandatory supervised release in some jurisdictions, well, that falls under determinate. But indeterminate, the parole board determines when that person is released based upon how they have rehabilitated themselves while incarcerated. So you have to determine which one your state has. Okay. And that's it for that. So overview. Okay, we did that. Okay, and that. So now we go to where you can take a test to practice, and I'm just going to show you the beginning, and I'm not going to stay with you on it. A determinate sentence is a blank and utilizing sentencing guidelines. So you're going to put the answer there and type it, and then you're going to submit it. So that will help you to prepare to understand that. That's what this section is here, that knowledge check. So then you'll answer, those series of questions to help you understand. Okay. All right. So that's it for determinate and indeterminate. Please try to do the student survey by the end of the week. That lets us know what you think about the course so far. Okay. And that's it. That's it for this week. And so, again, I hope you heeded what I said earlier about the rubric. I hope you pay attention to the topics that we're talking about this week and in terms of completing your papers. And so I'm going to give you a key phrase. And the key phrase for this week is based upon the sentencing structure of Illinois, and that is determinate sentencing. So give me determinate sentencing and you will get your point. Notice what I said. I didn't say determinate sentence, determinate sentencing. Okay. So again, I'll see you next week. Remember, I said I will be recording the lecture next Tuesday as opposed to next Wednesday because the 28th is my wedding anniversary. All right. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to address any issues that you might have. So I'm going to say good evening and have a good week.